My wife, whom I have loved for 23 years, makes one last request to me before she dies. But it's not what I expected. He wants to spend the weekend with your best friend, Tom. He insists that it is his last wish. I am stunned, unable to comprehend what I have heard. My heart feels like it's been torn to pieces. How could the woman I adored, the mother of my children, ask for something so outrageous? And why will my so-called best friend accept? The betrayal I experienced was devastating, and then came a relentless plan for revenge. This is my story. At the age of 44, I reflect on my life with my wife, Jane, who is a year younger than me. After 23 years of marriage, we recently celebrated our silver anniversary with a fantastic one-week cruise in the Southern Caribbean. It was an unforgettable trip. Our son, Kevin, just celebrated his 24th birthday. He has a degree in computer engineering and is happily married to his wonderful wife. Linda, you bring so much joy to our lives. Our daughter, Megan, is only a year younger than Kevin. Megan has a degree in music education and currently works as an assistant director of the choir at our local high school, a position she loves. She recently got married to Mark, and they are very happy together. We don't have any grandchildren at the moment, but we enjoy our life together and we feel the need to hurry up. Jane and I have built a wonderful marriage, always supporting each other and caring the needs of the other. Our romantic life has slowed down a bit, but we both like it that way. My wife often plays the song Babbly by Colby Coyett, saying that it perfectly encapsulates his feelings for me. He has a wonderful way of making me feel appreciated. We often hang out with our friends Tom and Lisa. I've known Tom since elementary school, and we've been best friends ever since. Jane and I are godparents to her 3 adult children, and our children have always called them Uncle Tom and Tia Lisa. Families have a strong bond, and we have spent many holidays together. For me, Jane is the most beautiful woman in the world, and Lisa is a close second. Despite this, we have always maintained clear boundaries. We often danced with each other's wives, but we never crossed our boundaries. I would do anything for Tom and Lisa, as well as for Jane. Our life seemed perfect until Jane started feeling sick. It's a doctor's visit. She was quickly referred to an oncologist. We learned that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which is incurable. The doctor said he had about 6 months to live, the first 4 months being probably good ones. You may need palliative care to cope with the pain in the last 2 months. We were devastated by the news and quickly shared it with family and friends. Kevin and Megan and their partners came back to be with us during this difficult time. They wanted to stay, but Jane didn't want to interfere with their lives. Tom and Lisa were also heartbroken, but their support gave us great comfort. Jane asked our friends to take care of me after she left and suggested that he would eventually start dating again. I wasn't ready to discuss it, so I kept silent. He was focused on being the best husband he could be for her until the end. Jane didn't want to waste time feeling sorry for herself. I suggested she quit her job, but she was determined to keep it for the sake of consistency. Interestingly, Jane's desire for intimacy increased, and she began to look for new experiences. Even in the face of his illness, he adopted a more adventurous spirit in our intimate life, which led to many unforgettable moments together. When we didn't want to stay at home, we went out with Tom and Lisa, enjoying every moment to the fullest. So, Hank, you've been enjoying our intimate life lately? Jane asked. Absolutely, darling, I replied. I feel like you're pushing me to the limit, but honestly, it doesn't bother me. Every second I spend with you is precious and unforgettable. That's exactly what I want, my love. I won't be here forever, and I want us to create enough wonderful memories to make them last you a lifetime. He said, Jane, we've been having such great times lately, and I don't want to waste another moment on trivia, I said. I have a feeling you feel the same way, he replied. Hank, I'm ready for anything when you're ready, she said. I'm glad you mentioned this, because I have something important to discuss with you. Jane said, Of course, my love. What do you have in mind? I asked. I love you more than words can express, Hank. You are truly the best husband any woman could wish for. And I am so grateful for all the happy moments we have shared. Lately, we have been very close, and I want to make sure of your happiness while we're getting closer to this chapter, Jane said. I've treasured every moment we've spent together, Jane. I couldn't ask for a better wife, and I look forward to creating many more wonderful memories. With you, I replied. This intimacy has made me think about what I have not had the opportunity to experience yet. I'm thinking about new adventures I'd like to have while I still have a chance. Before we got married, you mentioned that you had other people, and I accepted it. When we got married, I was innocent, and I'm grateful to have shared that part of me with you. But now I'm wondering if you're ready for me to experiment something with another man before that it's too late. Jane said, I don't mean it's an adventure, just one weekend, and I can forget it. Do you mind, Hank? I can't explain it completely, but I really need it. I asked Jane. I was surprised. I didn't expect such a conversation. Honey, I hope this is just something you're going through and it will pass soon. Or maybe you're just teasing me. Please tell me you don't mean it. Ask. I'm being serious, Hank. I don't have time for games. Jane answered sharply. This means a lot to me. I think about it all the time. I really need it. Please tell me you understand and give me this opportunity. He asked. I felt depressed. My wife wanted to be with another man and was asking for my approval. Jane, I loved you from the moment we met. Are you the perfect wife? Would I do anything for you? But I'm not sure I can share you with anyone else. Before we go any further, who do you have in mind? Have you thought about meeting someone new? Ask. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. I would never put my health at risk. I've thought about it carefully and even talked to Lisa and Tom. Jane said, They get it. It has to be someone I know, someone I like and respect. Tom is the person I will be spending the weekend with. And then we'll put all this behind us. Jane said. I was stunned. My wife, unbeknownst to me, had confided in her friends, closer, and had convinced Tom to spend the weekend with her. Are you going to be with my best friend? He's going to be with you, and you think it's okay for me? You must be kidding, I said. No one's kidding, honey. I suggest we switch, Jane replied. It is not an infidelity if you recognize it and accept it. That's why I'm telling you about this now. Nothing has happened yet, I promise. I really need it, Hank. If you really love me, you will grant me this last wish. Jane said. I was in shock. So you're suggesting that if I love you, I must accept this and make it sound like a death wish. He's manipulative. You're not thinking straight. Honey, this is too much. I can't support him, I said firmly. If you do this, our relationship will end, I added. Jane kept insisting. Hank, ever since we got married, you've always given me everything I wanted. You took me on amazing journeys. You bought me fancy cars. You let me have as many clothes as I wanted. You took me on amazing journeys. You bought me fancy cars. You let me have as many clothes and shoes as I wanted. So why would this be any different? Have I ever sent you on vacation with another woman? No, it was always just the two of us. Did you buy these clothes for someone else? No. You bought them for me because you wanted to make me happy. Jane said. Jane, it was always just the two of us. I know it seems like a lot to ask now, but losing that connection would be devastating for me. I said, please think of it this way. When she's no longer here, you'll probably want to look for other women before considering getting married again. But I won't have that option. Don't you think that's reasonable? I feel like you had to make such a big sacrifice by being with me and no one else for so long. When you are free from our relationship, you can date as many men as you want without fear of getting pregnant or sexually transmitted diseases, I said. His frustration began to show. Look, I've always put my own needs aside for you and for our children. I don't regret anything, but I think you should try to be more understanding this time. Just put aside your pride and let me have it, Jane said. Let me ask you something, Jane. If you weren't sick, why would you still laugh being with another man? It's just honesta, I asked. I don't know. Maybe, he replied. Thanks for being honest. I'm sorry, I'm not enough for you. I answered in a low voice. She made a sample, but continued. Now let me ask you something, Hank. If I wasn't sick and I wanted to be with another man, would you deny me the opportunity? I asked Jane. After our divorce, you can do whatever you want with whomever you want, but never. You'll have a chance to be with me again, I said. Jane dismissed my warning and continued. You didn't always want me to have everything. You always gave me more than I asked for. You're going to deny me now, especially this last wish. Jane, once I thought I was everything to you. I said quietly. Thanks for pointing out my mistake, I said. She burst into tears and quickly left the room. Normally I would try to comfort her, But this was different. I was hoping he would reconsider. I heard her talking on the phone, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. Approximately 10 minutes later, today a car parked in front of our door. Tom Eliza wasn't just visiting. This was a setup. As she was walking to the front door to greet them, I went out the back door, and he took a walk around the neighborhood. I left my phone on the kitchen table so no one could call me. As I was walking, my mind was racing. When I returned 40 minutes later, his car was gone. I felt that his plan to surprise me had failed. "Where have you been?" I was so worried. "Tom Eliza arrived, and we didn't know where you were," Jane asked. I replied, "I know we both needed some space after what happened, so I decided to take a walk." I was surprised to learn that Tom Eliza had stopped by today. "What's happening?" But he gave me a cold look. They were in the neighborhood and decided to stop by to do business. We have both visited each other countless times over the years. It is a pity that they have not met. They were hoping to talk to you about our previous conversation. I assure you his interest is one-sided, Jane said. "I have no intention of discussing the shock you have caused me," I said. "But they're our best friends," Jane protested. "They're your best friends, who better to share my thoughts? They used to be my best friends, but today everything has changed. From now on, they're your best friends," I said sternly. "I'm done with them for good." "You can't be serious, Hank. Why are you being so difficult? I've talked to you and no one else. Are you going to break a lifelong friendship over this?" "I know you're better than that, and so is Tom," Jane said. "I guess you discussed our conversation with them." While they were visiting, I asked, "Sure, what are you waiting for? What's happening? What's happening?" "Sure, what did you expect? They're our closest friends, and that's what friends do. They support each other," he replied. I suspected it. "And what did Tom suggest about our situation?" I asked sarcastically. "Understand the kind of person you are, Hank. Think that you are the husband, father, and friend, more compassionate and understanding than anyone could wish for. Tom mentioned that you helped him get the job he was hired for." "Tom said he didn't know anyone better," Jane said. "I'm sure that's not all that Tom shared." "Jane, what else did he say about our problem?" I asked. "Tom mentioned that he understood both sides of the issue. And though he's been your closest friend for most of your life, you're not the only one facing the end. He suggested that we pay special attention to those who are nearing the end of their lives." "Your advice is sensible," Jane said. "And what, dear wife? What do I advise?" I asked with a hint of sarcasm. Jane made a mocha before answering. He said it was easier to get forgiveness than permission. I felt a surge of anger and responded, "You will get neither one nor the other from me." Then I turned around. If Tom and Lisa weren't already out of my life, they certainly would be now. Our friendship was over. I would only interact with Tom at work in a strictly professional manner, which shouldn't be so hard, since we worked in different departments. As the night wore on, Jane gradually piqued my interest and took back the reins of the situation. Jane was pleased with how often we were intimate, but I felt like he was monitoring me. Frankly, I didn't care as long as he stayed within certain limits, which I didn't think I had crossed yet. We were intimate every night that week. Then, on Friday morning, before leaving for work, Jane said, "Honey, I have something to tell you before you go. I'm going to Tom and Lisa's at 9 o'clock tonight. Tom and I are going to go to his house. He mentioned that he only discusses this work with him now, and that you have stopped answering his calls and messages. Lisa also said that you haven't been in touch with her. I'll be back on Sunday afternoon, and I'm looking forward to spending time with you. I just wanted to give you a heads up so you can come straight home after work tonight. I want to make sure that this one is completely satisfied before I leave." "All right," Jane asked. I felt like my world was falling apart. Everything was on the verge of change. Jane was determined to go on her own. I care a lot about Jane, but I can't ignore the fact that you've decided to be with another man. I consider it a betrayal. I don't support it, and I don't want it to be like that. If you're spending time with Tom or anyone else this weekend, I won't be here when I get back. I will also stop communicating with Tom and Lisa, and I will distance myself from our relationship with our hijados. For me, this would be a real betrayal," I said. "If you decide to be with him, I can't be with you anymore," I said, my voice full of sadness. Jane began to cry. Tom and Lisa assured her that he would forgive her, and she tried to understand why he was not supporting her at this difficult time. "After tonight, my dear husband, you will understand how much I love you, and I need your presence in my life. But I need it for me too. I want you to acknowledge my feelings and fulfill my last wish. He said. He leaned over to kiss me goodbye, but I stepped aside and quickly got out. On the way out, I could hear her crying, wishing she would change her mind. When I got home for dinner, I discovered that Jane had hidden a suitcase full of unknown underwear under his bed. It seemed that he had already made his decision, leaving it to me to face mine. Before returning to work, I sent her a text to let her know I would be late, working on a special project. I apologized, explaining that I was not sure when I would get home. I was hoping she would reconsider going with him. I left my phone on the kitchen table, knowing that I wouldn't be there for her that night. He wanted her to feel some uneasiness that might make her change her plans. Tom stopped by my office and said, "Hank, you need to stop being so stubborn. Consider Jane's feelings, not just yours. This is his last wish, and I can't deny him. I see that my so-called best friend is planning to cost with my wife for her happiness. And though I can't stop you from destroying my marriage, you must understand that there will be consequences," I said. "If you lay a finger on Jane, you, Lisa, and my kids will be out of my life forever. You will ruin both my marriage and our friendship. I suggest you take my place as my love. I suggest you take my place as Jane's new boyfriend. Because I won't go near her after the way you have chased with her," I said harshly. "Hank, that's not you. I know you're better than that. Deep down, you don't believe what you're saying. I understand you better than Satimism understands you," Tom said. "No matter what you think, Tom," I replied. "I meant every word. Now, are you leaving my office, or are you ready to explain to the boss? Why are you wasting my time? Ask." Tom realized that I was too angry for him to reason with me. I was hoping that after Jane and I spent the night together, the situation would get better. But I was raging with rage, and nothing they said could change my opinion. It seemed that Tom and Lisa put Jane above my feelings. I was usually easy to get along with, but there was a limit. To avoid seeing Tom, I left work early and went to the gym, a place I rarely went to. I needed to channel my anger and avoid feeling sore the next day. While training, a whirlwind of sadness, anger, and helplessness came over me. I shed a few tears, but I managed to keep myself from breaking down in front of other people. I left the gym at 7:30 in the afternoon. After a refreshing shower, feeling a little better, but still struggling with my problems, I headed to the restaurant that Jane and I used to visit on special occasions. The memories of the happy moments spent or flooded my mind, and as I was evaluating my options, I felt a mixture of happiness and sadness, doubts, and he had the strength to keep the promises he had made to Jane. My beliefs were so vital that I would be willing to risk everything for them. We had been together for 23 wonderful years before everything changed. I never expected to find myself in this situation with her. I thought about confronting Tom, but I realized that it wouldn't solve anything. He knew how I felt, and yet he was determined to keep going, no matter what I threatened. Jane had already admitted that one day she might want to follow this path on her own, even if she didn't have cancer. When I didn't get home that night, Jane started to worry, noticed my mobile phone on the kitchen table, and decided I should have left it there. After sending a message saying I would be late for work. "Hi, Tom. I'm Jane. I knew it was you, silly. I recognize your wonderful voice anywhere. How are things going at Hank's? Take it easy, I guess," Tom asked. "In fact, that's why I'm calling you. Do you know why Hank is working late tonight? He texted me around noon, mentioning a special project." "I don't understand what you mean," Jane asked. "I left work a little late today, and the parking lot was deserted when I arrived." "Hank's car was gone," Tom said. "Although we work in different departments, I know about the special projects and overtime. Have you thought about calling him?" Tom asked. "That's the problem, Tom. I tried to contact him as soon as I got home to find out when he would be. But his phone is on the kitchen table, and I can't reach him. If he's not at work, didn't you say you were planning a special romantic evening for him tonight? That would make him fit on his knees," Tom said. "Absolutely. I made it clear to you today. The only conclusion I can draw is that he's trying to avoid me." "What should I do, Tom?" Jane asked. "Jane, I know Hank. He's just feeling sorry for himself. He's playing a mean game to ruin your plans. If he decides to miss tonight, it's his fault. He doesn't realize how lucky he is to stop you in his life." Tom said, "When you leave, he will regret every moment he spent without you." Tom said, Hank is a Sente guy and my closest friend. But even the best of us make mistakes. You know what you really want, and you deserve it. He's the one who's trying to ruin everything. If you decide to take a step back, I'll teach him a lesson. Tom said, No, Tom. I'm not backing down. I've been through too much trouble with him to back off now. You're absolutely right, Tom. If he doesn't come tonight, it will be his fault. I'm going to focus on enjoying our time together this weekend. Jane said, I can't thank you and Eliza enough. That's how we feel about you, Jane. I really hope Hank realizes how important this is and makes time for you. Tom said, Thanks, Tom. I feel much better. I'll wait until I get back, but I still intend to leave around 9. I'll be with you soon after that. Jane said, I'll be very happy, Jane. I promise to give my best this weekend. I hope it meets your expectations. Tom said, I'll be very happy, Jane. I promise to give my best this weekend. I hope it meets your expectations. Tom said, I'm sure it will happen. See you soon, Tom. Jane said, Goodbye, Tom. He replied, Sitting in the restaurant, consider my choice. If she decided to be with Tom, he would never have anything to do with her again. I'd be breaking our wedding vows. No one was forcing her. It was his decision. The worst thing was that I would lose 2 of my closest friends, both connected to Jane's betrayal. I would never treat Tom the way he treats me. These 3 are like dead to me. Divorce is an option, and I could sue her, but it would be useless, since he will most likely leave before the case is over. I need to save my finances. Who knows what his next move will be? When I got home at 9:30 at night, she was gone. She must be with Tom. I've never felt so sad and lonely. The pain of the loss was overwhelming, but I knew what I had to do. On the kitchen table, I found an envelope addressed to me, hidden under Jane's mobile phone. I clearly wanted some alone time this weekend, and I didn't mind. I decided to leave the envelope intact and unopened. When I checked my phone, I noticed that she had already tried to reach me by phone and message. He expressed concern about my silence and promised to do better when I returned. He insisted that he needed this time and professed his love to me. But his words meant nothing to me. I decided to clean everything up when she came back. He insisted that he needed that time and proclaimed his love for me. But his words meant nothing to me. I decided to clean everything up. First, I moved all my clothes and personal belongings from the master bedroom to the guest room, making sure not a trace of me was left there. Then, take our wedding album, and I removed all my photos, refolding the album and leaving it on our bed. I called my brother and asked if I could stay with him for a few days. He offered me a spare room and said I could stay as long as I wanted. To help me sleep, I took one of Jane's sleeping pills. Sometimes medicines really can do wonders. The next morning, I was woken up by the doorbell. I put on my robe and headed toward the door. Liza was there. What brings you here, Liza? I thought I had made everything clear with Tomir. I said, Good morning, Hank. You know, he could have used our key. We both have spare keys for each other's houses. May I come in? Did he ask? I realized she was right and stepped aside to let her pass. You can say whatever you want here. What's the matter? I asked him. Well, if you had answered the phone, I wouldn't have had to come, Liza commented. For the last time, Liza, why are you here? I asked him. I'm here for you, Liza replied. Jane mentioned that you weren't happy with the plan, so I wanted to help. Are you one of my closest friends? He added. Tell me how. How are you going to do that, Liza? I asked him. In any way you need? Hank, I could be a conversationalist, a housewife, a cook, or just someone to keep you company and cheer you up. We all agreed that you can count on me for support this weekend, just as they can count on each other, Liza said. It is obvious that all 3 have come to many conclusions that I cannot support. I have a busy day ahead of me, and you are short of time. Please, be yourself and don't come back. If I use that key, I'll have to call the police. Goodbye, Liza, I said to him as I was closing the door. I watched from the window while she was crying on the phone, probably with Tom or Jane. I tried to stay polite, but I couldn't help but feel disappointed. Liza stayed in her car for a few minutes before finally leaving. After breakfast, I went to the store and bought new locks for both doors. It took Livio to know that I was the only one with the keys. Then I decided to change my phone number so Jane couldn't contact me. I finally took off my wedding ring and broke it in my workshop, leaving it on the kitchen table next to her phone. I packed a small bag and invited my brother's family to the Morzer on Sunday. Jane was due to return in the afternoon, and I wanted to leave before she arrived. I was enjoying the time I was spending with my family when Jane came home. She hoped to find her husband there, ready to comfort her until she forgot he was gone. Jane felt a wave of sadness as she realized that he was not at home and the door was unlocked. At first, she thought that maybe he had gone out on business, but her heart rallied when she saw his wedding album open on the bed. The tears stilled down her face when she saw that he had disappeared from all the photos. Then she realized that all her clothes were also missing. Had he really moved? His gaze fell on the sealed letter she had left for him on the bed. She desperately tried to call Hank, but found his number disconnected. Everything seemed to be going wrong. This was not the future that Tom had assured her. He had told her that Hank couldn't live without her. He looked around the house and noticed new locks on the guest room door. Maybe he really hadn't gone anywhere. Maybe he was just upset and hiding in another room. Not knowing who to turn to, Jane decided to call Lisa to see if Hank had mentioned anything to her about his intentions. No, Jane. When I talked to Tom that morning, I told him everything Hank had told me. But it wasn't much, Lisa replied. It hurt me a lot when Hank treated me so cruelly, she continued. What's the matter? Lisa asked. Jane shared what she had discovered when she got home. Tom and Lisa were listening to the conversation on the phone on speakerphone. Didn't you leave Hank a letter explaining that you were quitting your job to make him happy? Tom asked. Yes, Tom. Write the letter as you suggested, but he never opened it. She has no idea what she's saying, Jane said bitterly. Hank's still here. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, Jane. Hank clearly moved his stuff into the guest room to annoy you. He's just sulking. He'll be back to his senses soon. Trust me, Tom said. I hope you're right, Jane replied. Thank you for your support, she said, feeling grateful. He then tried to contact Hank's brother and parents. His parents did not know where he was, and his brother mentioned that he had not heard from him. As Hank had requested, Jane knew she had to be patient, as he had been over the weekend, but I felt a deep longing for him. For the first time in a long time, she felt very far away from him and fell asleep crying alone in her bed. On Monday at 6:30 in the morning, I called work before it opened to the office, and I left a voice message to my boss, asking her to book 2 working days due to family circumstances. I wasn't ready to talk to Tom yet, and I wanted to avoid any interruption in my work. Instead, I focused on getting our finances in order to ensure our safety. After 23 years of marriage, we had accumulated a considerable fortune. Instead, I focused on getting our finances in order to ensure our safety. After 23 years of marriage, we had accumulated a considerable fortune, and I was determined to keep it. My trust in Jane was completely shattered. Transferred thirds of our cash and investments, the ones that only I had access to. Jane wouldn't have found out unless she decided to investigate, since all the bills would have been paid on time anyway. It took most of the day, but I was glad to get away from the ongoing drama. I knew I would have a real conflict when I got home. On Tuesday morning, I enjoyed a walk in the park and then had lunch at a local diner. The cinemas would be at noon, so I decided to spend the afternoon there. Tuesday night brought back some anxiety about seeing Jane again. I promised myself not to get into arguments with Jane. I expressed my gratitude to my brother and his family for giving me a place to stay and time to think. I returned to work on Wednesday morning. My boss was not interested in my family situation, for which I was very grateful. As soon as Tom found out I was back at the office, he headed straight to my desk. You're finally here. Have you talked to Jane yet? I was really worried about you, she said. Tom closed my office door behind him. I decided to ignore him, walked over, opened the door again, and walked out without saying a word. He watched me for a moment, calling out to me as I made my way to the men's room, but I didn't respond. I decided I wasn't going to talk to Tom and Lisa anymore. I figured Jane would keep them posted, but I wasn't going to talk to them. Tom told Jane he'd seen me, and she ended up calling me 4 times in a row. I put every call on hold and listened to the music until it finally stopped. When I left work, Tom followed me to the restaurant without saying anything. I didn't want my dinner to be ruined by an emotional conversation. Tom waited until I left, then followed me again. As I was approaching my house, I noticed that he was talking on the phone. I was sure he was talking to Jane. She must have been waiting for me, because when I arrived at the house, she ran to meet me with her arms outstretched for a hug. I quickly grabbed my duffel bag to make room as we walked into the house. With tears in her eyes, Jane began, "Where have you been, Hank? Do you have any idea how worried I was? I didn't have a moment of peace until you came home." "Don't scare me like that anymore," he said. "I can only imagine how worried you were." Was she as worried about me with another woman as I was about you with another man? I doubt it. That would be cheating, wouldn't it? Diggs archaically. His disappointed look made it clear that he understood my point. I was proud of myself for keeping the calm in my voice. "Hank, I understand you're upset, and that's why we need to talk about this and move on." Jane said coldly, "I can't tell you how much I love you. Tomer ruined everything for me, and now I feel like I can't even get to you. Just thinking about it makes me sick. I'm exhausted after a long day." Jane said, "Good evening," I said simply. "Please don't turn your back on me, Hank. I was really worried about you, and you just ignored me. I don't like that. I want you to be in my bed tonight, and I'm going to spend my whole life trying to make it up to you." Jane said like a wounded child, "Look, Jane, I just got home, and I'm completely exhausted. Let me take a shower and change. I promise we can talk after I get cleaned up," I said wearily. Surprisingly, I accept my application without hesitation, clearly confused by my lack of interest in being with her. I carried my bag into the bedroom and locked the door behind me. After changing into my underpants, I grabbed some clean clothes and headed to the bathroom down the hall for a long hot shower. I knew that night would be difficult. To her credit, she gave me the space I needed, probably taking the lock on the bathroom door as a do not disturb signal. Once I was done, I got dressed, took my dirty clothes back to my room, and I locked the door again. I decided that from now on I would do my own laundry. When I came out, I found her waiting for me in the studio, sitting on the couch, completely naked. I was sitting in the only chair next to the sofa, which clearly irritated her a bit. "Come here, big guy, and sit down nice. I have so much to share and show you," Jane said in her passionate tone. "I can hear you perfectly well from here. What do you want to tell me?" I responded, trying to hide my disappointment with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "I love you, and I know that you love me too. We are meant to be together forever. I'll get to the other side before you, but I'll wait for you until you join me. In the meantime, I hope you have a long and happy life, even if it involves dating other women. I just don't want to waste any more time without having you around. We'll get over this and leave it behind forever. I want to love you more than ever for the rest of my life." "That is my wish, Hank," Jane said. "But I have some questions before I move on," I said. "Sure, Hank. Go ahead," Jane replied. "Did you sleep with Tom last weekend?" Ask. She nodded. "Did you share with him everything that you share with me?" Ask. "Tom advised me not to share the details," Jane said. "Tom mentioned that this might make you very angry." "Get angry?" I replied. "I get it now. So he's taking over our marriage. You've told me everything I needed to know. Good night." "Jane," I said, "confirm." I started to get up to leave. "Wait, please. I will answer your questions," Jane begged. "Before you left for the weekend, I warned you about the consequences. Instead of listening to me, you chose to trust Tom, trusting the wrong person. And now you are left to ally with the consequences." I said coldly, "Stop treating Tom like that. He's your best friend, and he was your best friend before I came. They are our best friends. You're upset right now. Tom suggested that you might need some time to calm down. And I think he's right," Jane said. "I think it will take me about 6 months to calm down," I replied. Her eyes widened. 6 months? They'll be gone by then. "Hank, you've got to be kidding me. We need to get this over with as soon as possible. Let me help you get through this. I promise I'll make it up to you," Jane begged. "Sorry, Jane, but I'm really not in the mood for this. Deliberately hurting myself is not something I plan on doing," I said. "Are you saying you want to leave me, Hank? Is this how it will all end for us?" Jane asked with a voice trembling with emotion. "I thought about it a lot while you were with Tom last weekend. You know, I'm not the kind of guy who breaks his promises. I intend to keep my vows for the rest of my life. I will not betray you as you betrayed me," I said quietly. "I will stay in the house, but we will live in separate rooms. I'll pay the bills and go on with my normal life. I won't leave you. I will not abandon you in good times or in bad. That's part of my promise to you. But my vows no longer mean that he should be close or affectionate with you. All I'm asking is that you don't bring that man and his wife here again. If you do, please help me, so I can leave before them," I said. "I can't help but feel that I have caused so much damage to our relationship," Jane said. "Hank, if what you're saying is true, it wasn't worth it. 1,000 weekends with him or anyone would have made no difference. I just hope that you can find it in your heart to forgive me before it's too late. I'm really sorry, Hank. I'm sorry for what I did for us, Jane said. The heart doesn't always listen to what the mind shouldn't. And one more thing, Jane. Since we're not intimate anymore, if you ever want to be with him or anyone else, please don't do it here. Find another place to meet you, I said with disdain. I don't want to hear it, Jane screams, her face flushed with rage. Now, pay attention to what I'm telling you. This was a one-time mistake and will not happen again. I want him to be the last man in my life. I promise I won't be with anyone else, he said. I remember you made the same promise on our wedding day. Forgive me if I have a hard time trusting you, I said. Tears were streaming down her face, and she started sobbing uncontrollably. I went to my room, closed the door, and left her crying on the sofa. The next morning, I left for work early to avoid her. Around noon, Tom broke into my office. I'm not leaving until he talks to me, he said. What you're doing to Jane is unacceptable. I'm going to pester you until you change your mind, I screamed. I picked up the phone and called my boss. Hi, Denise. I have a problem. Tom is here in my office, and he refuses to leave, I said. He's interfering with my work. Can you help me? I asked. After a short pause, I replied. Thank you, Denise. Are you serious? Can't you face me directly? So you're going to my boss? Tom asked. Something like that, I replied. At that moment, my office phone rang. Yes, sir. I'll transfer it, I said, handing the phone to Tom. Hey. Yes, sir. I understand. It won't happen, sir. I understand. It won't happen again, he replied. He handed the phone back to me, looking defeated. This isn't over, Hank, he said angrily. We have too much history for it to end like this. Tom added quietly. I decided to ignore him until he finally left. I knew that I would report any subsequent harassment at work, and if he approached me outside of working hours, I would handle it then. According to the doctors, Jane had less than 2 months to live. I could handle 2 difficult months if necessary. That night, I decided to go to a family restaurant to avoid having dinner with Jane. I needed to find a place to eat when I got home. But when I came in, she had already prepared dinner. Hi, honey, Jane said. I made your favorite dish, and I hope you're ready for it. I noticed you were a little late, but I left it warm for us. Sorry, but already with me, I replied. That's why I was late. Since you'll be leaving soon, I'm looking for a place to eat after you leave. I should have mentioned that I will be dining out from now on, which should make things easier for you. It's okay, she said, looking a little hurt. You're really depriving me of that too. He asked. You made it clear that intimacy was not an option, but I really hoped that I could cook for you. Am I nothing to you now? Is that really all? She asked with a voice full of confusion. I can't tell you what you want to hear, Jane. You say you regret ever being with another man, but I'm sorry that it affected your decisions. Not one of us is happy, but that's the reality we face. I'm going to my room now, I said. She started crying again. Hank, you don't have to lock yourself in your room all the time. Can't you at least go down and watch TV or something? I'm not contagious, and you can't catch my cancer. Please, don't completely cut me off, Jane said. I'll think about it. But only if you promise me 2 things, I replied. What are they? I asked her. First, I never mentioned that weekend or what it cost us I started. And secondly, I don't want to hear your side of this. Please don't hurt that idiot or his wife again. If you meet them, do not mention neither before nor after. Do you understand? I said. Jane seemed annoyed by my severity. He never asked me to choose what we would watch on TV. Our conversations revolved around work, politics, family, or other mundane issues. She kept her promise to avoid difficult topics, but I felt that they were still present. If he contacted my old friends, he did it when I was away. Jane knew that her actions upset me, so we were holding a tense truce. Every night, I would hear her sobbing softly while she was falling asleep. I don't think he regretted his choice, only from the consequences that followed. Then Saturday surprised me. Jane invited me to have breakfast and lunch with her. Not wanting me to cook, you choose to be real. And then I spent some time mowing the lawn. After eating a sandwich for lunch, I kept messing with the car and did the dishes. While I was doing the laundry, he asked if he could throw my clothes with his, but I refused. I preferred to do the laundry myself. Jane wiped away her tears and turned to leave. Who would have thought a woman could be so upset? Why does your husband do his own laundry? He muttered. I was glad to have some housework to occupy my thoughts and distract me from my pain. A while later, I heard a noise. My children, Kevin and Linda, along with Megan and Mark. They were chatting with his mother. I asked them what I knew brought there. "Hi, Dad. It's good to see you," Kevin said, hugging me. "We've been talking to Mom's about her getting sick. He doesn't have many good days left, so we decided to bring some food for a picnic. You and Mom, take it easy. We'll take care of everything," added Kevin. It was nice to see the kids, but I had a feeling it wasn't a coincidence. I wouldn't be surprised if Jane had planned it all out. They say that in love and war, anything goes. And even though we weren't at war, I certainly felt like she was taking advantage of the kids. An hour later, I was told that the grill was clean and ready. Then Jane said, "Hank, honey, the kids are asking for the side, and I need to get some things. I'll be right back." And he left. As soon as Jane left, I felt my children overwhelming me. Megan asked me, "Dad, can we talk?" "Sure," I said. My daughter continued, "Dad, Mom and I have talked a lot. We know what happened to Uncle Tom. We were surprised at first, but now we understand. We know how difficult it was for you, but you had time to think about it. Mom will not make that decision again, and we trust her. She felt it was the right thing to do before her time ran out. You can't find it in yourself to forgive her. You haven't spoken to her since, and you've cut off contact with Uncle Tom and Aunt Lisa. Dad, they were always your closest friends. Can't you understand that Uncle Tom was just trying to help someone in need? So you really think I should let him go?" I asked. Everyone nodded in agreement. I paused to gather my thoughts. I cared deeply about those people, and I didn't want to push them away. Then a thought came to me. "Kevin, you are my son," I began. "Do you know that I would do anything for you without hesitation, right?" I asked. "Sure, Dad. You have always been there for me, and I thank you for that," Kevin replied. "And Linda, as my son's wife, do you know that I care about you too, right? Would I do anything for you too?" I turned to Linda. "Sure, Dad. And we feel the same way about you. The four of us would do anything for you and Mom. That's why we're here. Our love for both is immense," Linda replied. "I'm so glad to see that, Linda. It makes things easier so we can move on to the next topic. As you know, I'm not young, and after thinking about what your mother went through, I've been thinking a lot about plans, including my own." I continued, "Kevin, could you let Linda spend the weekend with me so she can fulfill some of the wishes on her list? If we could spend the weekend together like your mom and Tom did, it would show me that you really say what you think and that you're willing to back it up with actions. If that happens, maybe I can even forgive your mother." I said. "What? Are you crazy?" Kevin exclaimed, and Linda blushed deeply at the thought. "There's no way I would accept that, Dad. Not even if it was a matter of life and death. I know Linda is not your biological relative, but it still doesn't seem right to me," my son said with disgust. "I can't believe I brought this up," Kevin said angrily. "Or do you mean Salcio, Tom, and your mom? Are you suggesting that?" asked. Everyone was silent, processing my words. I let the silence hang in the air before continuing. "Linda, I owe you and my son an apology. I would never ask a question like that, even in my worst moments. I just asked the question to make a point," I said. "Kevin, you mentioned that you wouldn't do this if I was in my last moments, and I feel the same way. It's easier for you to forgive your mother because you're not married to her. But think about it, Kevin. If Linda had gone with me and then come back, you would have seen her the same way. Would you have been able to forgive her as easily as you asked me to forgive your mother?" Ask. There was silence in the room as I considered this. Finally, Kevin nodded towards Mark, and they shook hands. He beat me to Linda, and then Kevin turned to me and said, "Dad, you're right. Thank you for sharing another valuable life lesson with us. Until now, we had only seen things from Mom's point of view and hadn't considered your position. You have really helped us to see things differently. Our love for Mom has not diminished, and we still wish her happiness to the end. But we recognize that by his actions, he has lost the right to ask for forgiveness from you. We also share your feelings about Uncle Tom and Tylizer." The son said, "We are not choosing Avondo. We care about both of them, but we are not going to pressure them to forgive Mom. She'll have to live with that." The daughter said, "We will support her in every way we can, but we are not going to let it happen to us to be forgiven. I'm very proud of all four of them. I never wanted them to be estranged from their mother. She will need your support more than ever in the future, and I trust that you will be there for her," I said, hugging them all, relieved that everything had turned out fine. The rest of the evening went smoothly. Jane seemed pleased with my positive attitude when she returned from the store. The kids did a great job preparing burgers and hot dogs, and the strawberry ice cream for dessert was a delight. Jane didn't get a chance to talk to them alone because I was nearby. After we finished cleaning and gave each other hugs and kisses, Jane wanted to talk to me. "You seem in really good spirits, Hank. It's nice to see you smiling so much," she commented. "The kids always brighten up my day when they come to visit." "It is impossible not to smile when they are close," I replied. "I heard from a little bird that they were planning to talk to you while I was at the store. They didn't seem bothered. So as the conversation went, they managed to convince you to see things my way?" Jane asked. "In their own way, they said that they love us both equally and insisted that they have no favorites." That seemed reasonable to me. And did we do a great job creating those kids? Right? My little bird gave me the idea that either you would agree with me or you would be on the opposite side. Jane said coldly. "I'm not so sure, Jane. Maybe you should consult your little bird again," I replied. "I'm going to take a shower and change." "We've both had a busy day," I said, getting up. I left her confused and headed to the bathroom. I knew Jane would be talking to Megan while I was getting organized. I couldn't help but think about how his attitude would change after their conversation. "You're just being stubborn and can't see past your own point of view." Jane screamed when I entered the room. I replied, "Maybe you should figure that out now instead of wasting your time with me. I'm sure your friend would make a much better wife, as I'm obviously not suitable." Jane waved me off and said, "Did you really ask Linda to sleep with you? You need to talk to her before things get worse." The children took it as a learning experience. They mentioned that they listened to me and remained neutral. "I would never do anything with Linda. If you doubt me, ask him," I said. Jane was upset that her attempt to use the children against me had failed. I have a feeling Megan told him what happened. It seemed to me that he was just trying to provoke me. I settled on the couch to watch TV, and Jane retreated to her room, banging on the door behind her. She wanted her to keep to herself. Another week passed, and we barely spoke. The attention was increasing, but we managed to exist without serious conflicts. We didn't eat together yet, and I did my own laundry and the dishes. The next night, Saturday, Jane went out and came back late. He suspected that he had found these people unpleasant, but he did not mention it, and I didn't bring it up. I felt like that was just feeding his anger. Then, on Monday, the CEO decided to pay a visit to my office. I didn't see him often. "Good morning, sir. What brings you here?" Asked politely. "This is Hank, right?" Hancock greenly asked. "Yes, sir," I replied. "Hank, I've heard great things about you. Your boss, Dennis, has highlighted your excellent work. I like to be aware of what is happening in the company. And I want you to know that you are an asset," he said. "Thank you, sir. It really means a lot," I replied. "Yes, but there's something else." He started looking at me expectantly. "Of course, sir. Please continue." I replied. "Hancock, do you know Brian Land?" Did he ask? "Yes, I know Brian Land, sir. He's my wife's father." I replied. "Brian is my golf partner, and we have been friends for years. He mentioned that you were new here just because he wanted you to make it on your own, which I admire. But Brian also mentioned that you and your daughter were having some difficulties. He said she was battling cancer and didn't have much time left. Is that correct?" The CEO asked. "Yes, that's right," I said, already understanding where I was going. As a father, Brian's biggest concern is his daughter's happiness in her last days, and I understand that. He asked me to check you out because sometimes men need to be a little nicer to their wives. The CEO said, pointing at me, "It can happen to anyone. I think you're a great husband, and I would like to not hear from Brian that you're not contributing to family life. Just to let you know, your character is taken into account in performance evaluations." Added the CEO. I was surprised that my father-in-law had discussed my personal life with my boss. Although I couldn't blame him completely, I didn't like being pressured. Hoping to avoid more confrontations, I replied politely. "Of course, sir. Thank you. I'll take care of it. Just make sure you keep going," he said firmly. "I really don't want to have to come back to this conversation." The CEO added coldly. "I assure you, sir, you won't have to. I appreciate your leadership," I said. He left, apparently satisfied, believing that he had solved his friend's problem. I'll cover it up as he left. I wrote my resignation letter. I packed my things, went to human resources, handed in the letter, returned my ID, and left the building. I made this decision for two reasons: to distance myself from my old friend, and because of my father-in-law's interference. However, this created a new problem. He was unemployed now. With a lot of free time, I had the opportunity to reflect. It was still early, so I went home to run some errands. Jane arrived from work at her usual time. "Are you home early? What's the matter?" he asked me. I threw him my typical enrutado look. "I'm quitting my job today," I told him. "What?" Jane exclaimed. "Yes," I replied calmly. "It turns out that your father was behind me, so I didn't have much of a choice," I added, looking the fixed mind in the eyes. "My father? How did he make you quit?" he asked me. "Well, since you should know, I found out today that your dad plays golf regularly with Mr. Jane," the CEO of my company replied. "Mr. Jane came into my office this morning and told me that your father was complaining about the way he treated you. He made it clear to me that if I didn't improve things at home the way your father wanted, I might lose my job," I said, gritting my teeth. "Mr. J.O. threatened me with negative job evaluations that could damage my career. How do you know? Do I not respond well to threats? Even if I were to become the perfect husband again, the damage is already done." The CEO painted me in a negative light, so I decided to resign from my position. "And now I'm here," I said. "How can you blame my dad because you lost your job?" I screamed. "Jane, you're a bag-o, Hank. You're disappointed in me, in our marriage, and in your job. And now you want to blame my father for your failures? He is a much better man than you will ever be." I screamed. "Jane, I realize now that I made a mistake being honest with you. I won't make that mistake again. What do you think about this? My big toe hurt today, so I decided to quit. Is it the best excuse?" Scream. "What idiot?" Jane said, shaking her head. "Why are you so stubborn? Why can't you forgive me and let us get back to the happy life we had before it's too late? Why did I choose to be with someone so stubborn?" I screamed. "Jane, something doesn't add up. This ex-boyfriend is so much better than I will ever be. Why don't you move in with him and take advantage of the time you have left? After all, he was the last person you were with. I am sure he would be more than happy to resume the relationship. So why stay with someone like me, who feels like a complete failure?" I said sarcastically. "Because I love you and only you, Hank," Jane replied. "Whatever happens, you're the only man I've ever truly loved. You're simply too blind to see it," Jane said irritably. We were both trapped, she in her love for me, and I in my refusal to accept her betrayal. We were at a standstill. "I'm going to eat something," I said. "I'll be back later. Why don't you call your dad while I'm gone and see if he can find someone to take care of you for me?" I said with a hint of sarcasm. I thought I had no more tears, but I was wrong. I left the house just to avoid more drama and enjoy a quiet meal. Apparently, he had contacted his father while I was away, because when I came back, she was waiting for me. "I'm sorry, Hank. I had no idea that my dad would use his connections with your boss to try to put pressure on you," he said quietly. "I love my dad, and I appreciate his intentions, but interfering in someone's work is wrong," she added. "Dad had good intentions, but I completely recognize my role in this situation because I was not completely honest about my part in our problems." He added, "I suspected as much. Look, I understand why your father wanted to use his connections to help you. I would have done anything for our children, but I thought he was above that," I said. "I realize now that I didn't know the whole truth," I said. "I am determined to change that, and my father will support me unless he decides he never wants to see me again," Jane said. "What do you mean, Jane? How can you change something in my career?" I asked him. "I've come to a conclusion. I'm quitting my job tomorrow. I won't be looking for another job because Dad and I are committed to helping you find a better one than the one you lost. We feel responsible for the difficult situation you found yourself in, so it is our duty to help you solve it. Dad has a lot of connections, not just with your old boss, and I'll use mine too. We will do our best to find a suitable job for you. What do you think about this offer? I hope this didn't surprise you," Jane asked. I was prepared for another discussion, but this one took me by surprise. "I'm not sure about my choice, but I appreciate any help you both can offer." "Thank you," I said. "I managed to convince Dad to take a week off to support us," Jane said, "to try my best to find another job, even if it seems impossible," I joked Jane. As promised, Brian arrived at our house early the next morning. He accompanied Jane to work, as she had decided to quit. Jane was relieved to avoid the farewell party that her workplace would have organized for her. When they returned, our house became a hub of activity. That week, the three of us were constantly on the phone, checking in with business contacts and acquaintances. Getting interviews wasn't difficult, but we wanted each one to be a real opportunity, not a gamble. With the economy in recession and quality jobs hard to find, I attended at least a dozen interviews that week with his support. I've never seen Jane so dedicated. His commitment to keeping his promises was unwavering. Help came from an unexpected source. Brian put aside his pride and approached Mr. Saw, admitting that he had misjudged the situation with his daughter and had acted in too much haste. Mr. J.O. expressed his regret for the interruption that occurred in my workplace and explained that returning to my previous position was not an option. Although he was disappointed to lose me, he accused his friend of exaggerating. Brian quickly jumped into action, promising to make some calls on my behalf. Within 45 minutes later, we received an unexpected call from Wellington Enterprises. The company was looking for a new manager to take over its purchasing department. Wellington Enterprises specializes in helping inventors turn their ideas into reality. Investors fund these ideas, and Wellington turns them into tangible products. Although creating a variety of products can be challenging, the company has developed its own unique approach to the process. They explain that while most new products fail, the few that succeed make all the hard work worthwhile. I spoke to them the next day, and it seemed that they had already decided to hire me. I had understood problems with dishonesty from previous employees in the position, and they were looking for someone reliable and honest. The positive recommendation of Mr. J.O. about me made a big difference. I was offered a much higher salary than I had been earning before. He was a truly decent man. I was about to start work in 3 weeks after they sorted out some staffing issues. I expressed my gratitude to Brian and Jane for their help in getting this wonderful opportunity. They both felt it was the least they could do, given their involvement in the loss of my previous job. Brian and I rekindled our friendship, and he acknowledged that he had been a good husband to his daughter before the incident. He mentioned that many men in such circumstances would not have stayed with their wives, leaving Jane alone. As we were shaking hands, he became emotional and admitted that he had acquired a new respect for me. I had a feeling Jane had been holding on until I got this new job. The next day, she suddenly collapsed from the pain. His skin turned a dark yellow. I quickly took her to the hospital, where we learned that this was a typical progression of her cancer. The doctor prescribed medications to relieve your pain and make you feel comfortable. When others found out about her condition, they started visiting her, presumably to say goodbye. And he gave as much as possible to create a positive atmosphere, and I coordinated the visits to avoid everyone arriving at the same time. One afternoon, Jane informed me that Tom, Lisa, and their children wanted to see her. He would answer their request and promised to make arrangements for them. Jane understood the implications of this visit. I contacted Megan and asked her to accompany my mom on the visit, requesting that she text me as soon as they were done. Megan handled it beautifully. My daughter is very perceptive. Everything went well, which allowed me to avoid an unpleasant conflict. The visit was eye-opening for Megan. Our children started spending more time with Jane, understanding that their time was limited. 2 weeks later, Jane was too weak to get out of bed. Thanks to the insurance, I was able to hire a day nurse, and I took care of her at night after work. She had become very thin and weak. Jane had a pain relief device, and all she had to do was press a button. Since I couldn't talk on the phone anymore, I took it off. Now all the communication was going through me. Lisa called to find out how Jane was worried because she couldn't get in touch with her. I explained the situation to her, and she expressed her desire to visit her. I told them it wasn't a good idea. She was disappointed, but did not insist. Our children and their partners took turns to help me, giving me some rest, which was a great help while Jane's condition worsened. I suggested that she consider palliative care, but she firmly refused, expressing her desire to spend her last moments at home surrounded by her loved ones. With a heavy heart, I respected his decision. Jane fell into a deep sleep and became unreceptive, and I feared that this was a sign that the end was near. One of our children stayed nearby, ready to alert the others if anything changed. One night as I was getting ready for bed, I was surprised when Jane suddenly sat up. After being largely unresponsive for 2 weeks, her sudden movement was amazing. She looked radiant. Her face lit up with the most beautiful smile in the world. Then Jane spoke up. "I'm sorry for hurting you, Hank. Please forgive me. I love you so much," she said. I was running toward her. I kissed her, and I said, "I love you, Jane, but I can never forget what you did to me." He lay down again in silence and went back to sleep. I knew the time was right, and I gathered all the children around. They stayed close to me while I held their hand. Hours later, he breathed his last. We all cry and hug each other, feeling the love of others. I was exhausted to organize everything, but Kevin and Megan were a great support. Jane had made the process easier by planning much of the work in advance. After his cremation, we held a memorial service at a local chapel. Megan nervously mentioned that her mother wanted Tom to talk after the priest. Megan thought it was too much to ask from me. I was surprised that Jane had made these arrangements without telling me, but the children persuaded me to respect their wishes for their sake. I accepted. Before the service began, the family gathered to console each other and greet the guests. I was not surprised when Charlene, Joe, and Evelyn hugged me. He was our Ijados, and they had nothing to do with their parents' choices. I hugged them back, realizing how much I loved them. Tom and Lisa kept their distance but talked to each other. Brian surprised me by handling it better than I expected. He had made it clear that he wanted to keep us close, and I felt the same way. At the service, Kevin's wife, Linda, sat to my left holding my hand, and Megan sat on my right holding my other hand. I appreciated my children and was grateful to Jane for instilling love in the family. The priest gave an inspiring message assuring me that they were there to support me at this difficult time. Tom was supportive, reassuring me that they were there to help me through all of this. Tom mentioned that Jane had asked him to read a letter she had written. He must have chosen during his last visit when Megan was around. The letter urged everyone to value their time, forgive each other, and keep in touch with me and the children. He even made a light joke about helping me find nice women to spend my life with, which made everyone laugh, including me. That was typical of Jane. After Tom finished speaking, he shared his thoughts. "I've known Hank longer than anyone else here. Jane hoped we could all find the strength to forgive each other. I admit that I made a mistake, although my intentions were good, but Hank has not let it go," Tom said. "We've been best friends since high school, but he can't forgive me this time," Tom said as he continued. Kevin got up and gestured to the minister, who quickly turned off Tom's microphone. Linda, Megan, Mark, and Kevin helped me out of the main chapel. Lisa, Charlene, Joe, and Evelyn also got up and joined us. Tom was stunned to see his own family leaving the chapel. Kevin explained that Charlene had mentioned hearing her dad giving me a hard time. I had arranged for the priest to turn people off, and he was getting a little bad. When I had a hard time, I had arranged for the priest to turn off the microphone if that happened when he arrived. I spoke firmly with Tom, and he promised me that he would only say what Mom wanted. I turned to Charlene, who said, "I love my dad and I love all of you." What he said was not true. We know what happened, and we are with you today. So is it to your family? I feel like we've been estranged since that weekend. I love you even more now that you have revealed your true self, and I appreciate it. Charlene concluded. Liza continued. But to you, Hank, I sincerely apologize for my role in all of this. All I can do is express my deepest regret, and I do not condone his public attacks on you. It really embarrasses me. Please don't let his behavior ruin your happiness. You have an amazing family that loves and supports you. Thank your family. It encouraged you. Liza remained married to Tom and supported the decision he and Jane had made. I wasn't sure if I'd ever get over it. A moment later, the doors opened and the crowd began to leave the chapel, each person offering their condolences as they passed by. I would ask Tom's children, Charlene, Joe, and Evelyn, to help me organize flowers from the store. They assured me that they would and expressed their gratitude. When I was about to leave, Charlene asked if he could join me, but they came to felt an agreement sign while she took my hand and led me to my car. She took us home and prepared a delicious dinner using the various dishes that our friends had brought. Then she cleaned the kitchen and kept me company until dinner. When my children arrived, Charlene hugged me, expressing her love and asking me to stay close. She was a genuinely good person, raised with strong values. In the following weeks, Tom made several attempts to reconcile, but I was not ready to forgive. Her children invited us to barbecues several times, but they never mentioned Tom or Elisa. Gradually, our conversations became less frequent. Everyone had their own lives, and it didn't bother me. I focused on my job, making sure I got what we needed quickly and at a good price. He managed a team of 7 people, 3 of whom were new, and he was proud of how well we worked together. They all contributed, and I considered them my working family. A little over a year after Jane's death, I received an unexpected message from Kevin, inviting me to a nice restaurant called Cher Roberto one Saturday night. He mentioned that it would be his invitation and that he was working on something special and wanted me to meet his contact there. He asked me to dress up in a suit. Even curiosity increased, and I'm glad he wanted to include me. I made sure to clean my best outfit for the occasion. Cher Roberto is a luxury establishment frequented by influential people for memorable events. Despite its high price, the food there is exceptional. It was my first visit. Kevin advised me to introduce myself to the owner upon arrival. The owner quickly confirmed my reservation and directed me to a table with a waiter. While walking through the restaurant, a romantic atmosphere enveloped me. The couples looked at each other tenderly. Several tables were occupied by businessmen, and at first I thought that was the purpose of my visit. But as we got closer, I noticed an elegantly dressed woman sitting alone at a table. She radiated grace, and I couldn't help but think how lucky the man waiting for her must have been. To my surprise, the waiter stopped and invited me to sit at his table. "You must have misunderstood," I said. "No, there is no misunderstanding." The waiter stopped and invited me to sit at his table. "I must have been mistaken," I said. "No, there is no misunderstanding," the waiter replied. "Would you like me to help you to a chair?" he asked. I sat down in front of the woman, who looked as puzzled as I was. "Hi, Liza," I said. "Hank, what brings you here?" he asked. "I guess for the same reason you're here." "Let me guess. What did Vint ask to come tonight?" I asked. "No, it was Charlene. I was supposed to meet her here at 8, Liza replied. "I was supposed to meet Kavina here at 8 o'clock tonight. But something seems to be wrong," I said. At that moment, new messages came to our phones. We checked them out. "Let me guess. Charlene is not coming tonight," I said. "I see. Our children were playing with us," Liza said, laughing. The waiter was nearby, as if waiting for our decision. "Liza," I said, "since we're here, why don't you order something? There's no point wasting the night." "Why not?" He nodded in agreement. "I've heard really good things about this restaurant," Liza said. I answered too. Looking at the waiter, I asked him, "Could you bring us 2 menus, please?" "That won't be necessary, sir," he replied, clapping his hands twice. A moment later, 3 waiters came out of the kitchen, each with a tray full of appetizing dishes. They placed the plates in front of us, as if they knew our preferences, and they quickly disappeared. We looked at each other surprised. As they did, we said Monday or not. "These are all my favorite dishes," she exclaims. "Mine too," as if someone who really knew both of us. "I would have chosen the dishes," I replied. "Honestly, if they're going to surprise me, I could expect worse." Liza laughed. "I completely agree," I said, smiling. "I understand why they did it. They knew you wouldn't contact me. After everything that happened, you made it clear how you felt. Looking back, I don't blame you, Hank. Actually, it doesn't bother me much because it's just you here. But if he was with you, I wouldn't have sat at the table at all." Liza said. He asked, surprised. "Do you mean Tom? Do you really not know that?" Liza asked, surprised. "Right? What do you mean? Has something happened to him? I haven't spoken to him since Jane died. And the kids know not to mention it in front of me," I said. "I understand. That makes sense. A lot has changed. Do you want to know what happened?" he asked. "Liza, I have no plans for tonight. Have you piqued my interest?" I replied. "Okay, but I must warn you that his name will be mentioned a lot in my story." Liza said, "It's been over a year now, and I think I can talk about this without getting emotional." "Go ahead, Liza," I said. About 3 weeks after Jane's memorial service, Tom felt something was wrong, which prompted him to go to the doctor. He was then referred to a specialist. He was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and the only option was major surgery to remove the prostate. The cancer had advanced to the point where every trace of it had to be removed. Many blood vessels and nerves were damaged during the procedure. Once Tom recovered, he painfully realized that the surgery had robbed him of the ability to be intimate with women. Liza said, "I was stunned by this revelation. I hadn't noticed it at all. The children had kept the details of their condition away from me." Noticing my surprise, she continued, "I hope you don't mind me being honest, Hank. Since you and Jane were good friends, I feel it's okay to share these personal things." I nodded with understanding. Toma is receiving regular radiation treatments since his surgery, which has affected his mental and emotional state. At first, he tried to do better to meet my needs in other ways, Liza continued. I think that raised his self-esteem at first, but eventually he got frustrated and quit. He became depressed and refused counseling. He then started drinking heavily and became verbally abusive. When he lost his job, things got even worse, and he started beating me up. I decided not to be a victim. After 3 incidents, I had had enough. My divorce from Tom was finalized last week. Hank, I haven't had a relationship with anyone in almost a year, Liza said. My thoughts were racing as I listened to her story. I would never say this, but I couldn't help but think that karma had a way of getting back to people. Then, my gaze fell on Liza, and I realized how little I really knew her. I was speechless. I didn't know about his diagnosis or how he had treated you. I'm ashamed of myself for turning my back on you. Liza, I wish I could have been there for you. He didn't deserve to be the pain he has suffered, just as I didn't deserve what happened to me, I said. It seems we have both experienced our share of injustice, Liza replied, reaching his hand across the table and gently covering it with mine. Although we cannot change what has already happened, maybe we can change something in the future. I got up, put Miss Scylla close to his, bent down, and kissed Liza tenderly. She clasped her hands in delight. At that moment, we noticed that all our children and their partners were gathered around a large table in the corner, watching us. We laughed so much that our sides hurt, and we were short of breath. The sincere gesture of our children, combined with the love that Liza and I shared, and the trials that we both had to overcome, they created a special bond between us. The gloomy atmosphere lifted and the sun shone again. We jokingly reminded the children that they still had to pay the bill. Ironically, all 5 couples competed enthusiastically for the opportunity to cover her. This is the end of my story. Subscribe to not miss more videos like this. And remember, history is a chance to become a better person, and see you soon.